Want cash landing in your bank account while you sleep? While you travel? Or do absolutely nothing at all? Sounds dreamy, right? But here's the reality. There's no overnight money machine or shortcut. Or have you actually found one? Because the reality is passive income started as a legal term, okay? Not a wealth strategy, not a financial philosophy, not a shortcut to freedom, just a boring IRS classification invented in the 1980s to stop rich people from dodging taxes. But then the marketers got a hold of it and suddenly, passive income became a promise, a dream, a headline you would click, a slogan you'd buy into, a magic word slapped onto every financial book, side hustle, and online course from the 90s to TikTok. So, let's clear things up, shall we? In this video, we're going to break down what passive income actually is, what it isn't, and what kind of income sources actually deliver it. This is Finance Mindset, Part 1, the myth. Now everyone wants passive income, right? But honestly, very few people understand how misleading the concept has become. The internet is filled with bold claims. Start a YouTube channel and retire by 30. Set up a dropshipping store and make 10 grand a month on autopilot. Just buy property and let the money roll in. Well, here's what you rarely hear. YouTube takes years to grow. Monetization is not guaranteed and most creators make pennies. Dropshipping is not passive. The customer service emails at 2 a.m., ad accounts getting banned, and supplier drama from halfway across the world. And property, that's a full-time job in disguise unless you already have serious capital and a team to manage it. Most of what the internet calls passive is just, well, poorly run businesses wearing investor makeup. The profits aren't actually passive, they're just delayed. The work isn't removed, it's just front-loaded, you know? Ironically, passive income wasn't even born from some kind of wealth strategy. It was actually born from a tax problem. So let's rewind to the 1980s for a moment. Part 2, the IRS Backstory. Now, in 1986, the IRS introduced the term passive income as a legal category specifically to stop wealthy individuals from using fake investment losses to erase their tax bills. So, here's how it worked. Okay, imagine you're a high-earning lawyer making $500,000 a year. You invest in a real estate partnership, something you're not actively involved in. That property on paper loses $200,000 that year. Not because it failed, but because of things like depreciation, interest, and paper losses. So, you, the lawyer, take that $200,000 loss and subtract it from your $500,000 income. You only pay taxes on $300,000 in that case. That is a massive tax advantage. You didn't lift a finger on that property, you didn't lose your cash, but you still got a write-off. Now, wealthy people use this trick called the passive loss loophole to legally avoid paying millions in taxes by stacking paper losses from investments they barely touched. The IRS saw what was happening and cracked down with a new rule. You cannot use passive losses to offset active income anymore. And just like that, the term passive income was born. Now the point wasn't to create a financial movement, the point was to protect the tax system. But decades later, marketers rebranded it into something else entirely. The modern-day fantasy of money for nothing, and trust us, okay? It is absolutely a fantasy. And you don't want a fantasy of the good life, do you? No, you want the real thing. And this channel, we exactly that. We deliver the lessons and stories you need to learn from to make it happen for yourself in a fraction of the time. By compounding wisdom every day from industry experts, telling you how they built their success, showing you how to apply these newfound skills in your life, your growth will become exponential, my friend. So, if you're ready to stop playing small and finally commit to making more money and improving your life, subscribe to this channel. Even better, turn on the notification so you will be notified whenever we post a new video. In the meantime though, let's get back to today's topic. Reality. Now, let's be clear, okay? There is no such thing as truly passive income. What actually exists are cash-generating assets. And while that might sound like the same thing in theory, in practice it is completely different. Assets don't appear out of thin air, okay? They require capital, meaning serious money, time, and not just a few weeks. We're talking years and expertise, a lot of it. So when people ask, how do I earn passive income? The better question is, how do I build or buy an asset that throws off cash flow? Because that's really what this is. And almost all of the so-called passive income out there comes from one of 5 asset types. So let's break them down. First of all, dividend investing. This is probably the most classic version of passive income. A dividend is a portion of a company's profit that gets distributed to shareholders, usually every quarter. You could think of it as a thank you check for owning a piece of the business. Blue chip companies like Apple Johnson & Johnson and Coca-Cola all pay dividends to investors around the world. It sounds simple, right? Buy stock, hold it, collect checks. But here's the catch. Dividends are proportional to how much you invest. Most dividend yields sit between 2 and 5%. So if you own $10,000 worth of dividend stocks, you're getting maybe $300 to $500 per year. That's not financial freedom. That's dinner money at a fancy place. So, if you want some real income, you need real capital. A $1 million portfolio earning 4%, well, that pays you $40,000 a year, and that is when it starts to matter. So yes, dividend income is truly passive, but it is not free. You pay for it upfront in capital. Then there's real estate, right? Just buy a house and rent it out. Sounds simple, but in practice? Yeah, not so much. Real estate is one of the most misunderstood passive income ideas because it can be passive, but only if it's done right. The model is clear, okay? You buy a property, you rent it out, and collect monthly income. But anybody who's actually done this knows it comes with a mountain of headaches. Tenants who don't pay on time, toilets breaking at 3 in the morning, property taxes, insurance, repairs, regulations, vacancies, bad neighbors, noisy construction next door, constant communication with handymen, plumbers, and agents. Unless you hire a property manager, you are not investing. You are working another job. The wealthy don't buy one quirky Airbnb and call it a day. No, they use leverage to acquire multiple properties and build systems around them. They hire teams to handle maintenance, leasing, and accounting. That's when it becomes passive. But it took money, structure, and a whole lot of planning to get there. Next, there's royalties and licensing. So, this is income from intellectual property, your ideas, your creations. It could be a book you wrote, a song you produced, software you licensed, a patent you own, or digital designs that you use in products. Whenever someone else uses it, you get paid. Royalty percentages vary though, okay? Authors earn between 5 to 15% per book. Musicians get 10 to 20% from streaming or licensing. Designers, they might get flat fees or usage-based rates. But here's the catch. So, exposure actually matters more than quality. Mariah Carey's holiday hit, All I Want for Christmas Is You, makes an estimated $2 to $3 million every year, even 30 years after its release. But, people assume she just stepped into a studio and magic happened. No, that's not really the case. The truth is, Mariah was already a global brand at the time. The song came with label support, mass marketing, radio airplay, cultural momentum, and, well, perfect timing. If an unknown SoundCloud artist released that exact same song back in 1994, you would have never even heard it. Okay, royalties are powerful in huge quantities, but how you actually get to those huge quantities is typically what people just fail to mention. Moving on, we've got digital products and content. This is where most people get sucked into the dream. Okay, create it once, sell it forever. But there are two things that people constantly get wrong. First of all, they forget about the audience. Without attention, there is no income. If no one sees your content or product, it dies in silence, no matter how good it is. Second, the shelf life of the content is short. Most digital products, whether it's a course, a video, or a newsletter, have a life cycle of 24 hours to 28 days. After that, views drop, searches fade, and income dies off. Think of it like a movie. Avatar made over $2 billion at the box office, but the majority came in the first few weekends. After that, nobody cared about it anymore. Your content or product might blow up for a week, then disappear unless you constantly push or rebuild. So technically speaking, it is passive in the sense that you are creating an asset that generates money for you, but practically, you need to keep creating. Then we've got private equity and limited partner income. Now, this is the least talked about but most widely used model by the wealthy, and it works like this. Okay, so instead of building a business, you invest into one that already exists. You become what's called a limited partner or LP, meaning you've got no operational control, but you get a cut of the profits. Returns vary, but many private equity deals offer 8 to 20% annually, sometimes even more if the business is sold for a higher valuation later on. But here is the barrier, okay? Minimum investments often start at $100,000 or more. The money is not liquid but locked in for years. You cannot withdraw whenever you want, and you need access to trustworthy operators and vetted deals. This is why it's reserved for people with capital and connections. And you know what? We've got an in-depth, dedicated video on private equity which you can check out by clicking the link in the description. Alright, so next we've got to talk about the hidden cost of passive income because there is a cost and it's something that nobody likes to say out loud. Passive income is not free, okay? It just doesn't cost you time anymore. Every one of these income streams from dividends, real estate, royalties, content to private equity, all require an upfront sacrifice. And there are only 3 currencies that you can use. Time. If you don't have money, you'll pay in hours, building, writing, producing, uploading, pitching. There's capital, because if you don't have time, you will need cash, often in large amounts. Then there's systems. Because if you don't have both, you scale through automation, delegation, or infrastructure. That's why wealthy people seem like they make money by doing nothing. Okay? They already paid the price years ago. They either built the asset, bought the asset, or plugged into the systems that do the work for them. Which brings us to the truth about passive income. Now this is going to be a mindset shift for most of you, okay? Passive income is not to get rich, it is to stay rich. So if you're not already making a decent, when it comes to the amount of money, passive income is honestly the least of your worries. Every single person on earth has something called a monthly burn rate. It's the amount of money they need just to keep living the way they do for 1 month. And here's the thing, 99% of people cover that by working for it actively. About 1 in 5 US households receive some sort of passive income each year, but the median amount is about $4,200 a year. So that's about $350 a month. Not exactly financial freedom, right? You see, freedom doesn't come from how much you earn, it comes from how little you need and how reliably your income can cover it. Those who are truly free actively earned a lot spent wisely and bought income-generating assets that cover their burn rate. So, stop thinking of passive income as a jackpot, and start treating it like a firewall built with your own 2 hands. Well, that's it for today's story. Want more? Head over to the channel and dive into our other videos. Until then, stay sharp, stay focused, and keep building your finance mindset.